I really don't know where to begin with this. I mean, okay, one place where you might begin with any new product is how, what problem is it solving, and how has that problem been solved in the past, or what is the solution that was before this, right? How were, because people have been alive for a long time, and there have been kids growing up for a long, long time. So it's not an essential object, okay? Like it's not an essential object. We've been fine without this. So what is the problem that this is addressing? Is it just a new toy? Is it for entertainment purposes? I don't think it's quite that, because I think it's like, I think it's something else. And what does it say about how, like, our mindsets as people living in 2020, like to bring about, to think of a need for something like this, you know? And I'm just like speculating here, but, you know, like, growing child, like very formative years, you know, potentially there, people have recognized that, I don't know, maybe parents don't have enough time for their kids, or, you know, like, there maybe if there was some thoughts that, maybe some studies around, children not having enough places to get advice. I don't know. There could be many like good reasons. So that's one kind of angle. Another angle is like, this is just so uncool. You know, this is like the least cool thing that you could want. Like, can you imagine bringing three of your mates over when you're like 7, and like, it's like, hey guys, here's my new friend Moxie. Just shivers. Like, I just can't see it. I just can't see it. Just, yeah, I feel, in 10 years time, this can be a very different thing. I'm not quite sure if I enjoy the form factor, things like that. I'm not quite sure. But the other kind of, yeah, the other thing that I'm not sure about is, when you get this thing, do you kind of set as a parent what kind of things do you agree with or you don't agree with that it teaches the kid? You know, like, are you like democratic? Are you like, what kind of philosophies and worldviews do you want? Like, and you, okay, I want very small, like, you know, I want a very, you know, like this kind of child, and I don't want you talking about this kind of things. Or do you like, which is the right way to go? You have to have something, because if your child's going to spend a lot of time with this, and this thing is just going by, for example, general, progressive views, you know, I think there's a huge danger in that, this thing might color a generation of humans to be, you know, having similar worldviews, or worldviews that potentially that you don't agree with. And that's a complex thing. So those are my just initial kind of thoughts. As I said, there's just so many things about this that makes me curious, that makes me a bit creeped out, a little bit, yeah, a lot of questions. But yeah, I'm keen to hear your thoughts, Krish.
Yeah, there's already been a Black Mirror episode about this, right? With Miley Cyrus.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, my comments are actually quite similar to what I said about that Samsung Bally product that came out. You know, tasks that are traditionally experienced through play, learning, engaging with other children, are now just being outsourced, you know? And that makes me a little bit sad. You know, things like a parent reading a story, teaching your kids some life lessons. They fall and they cry, and then you walk up to them and you actually get them back up on their feet, helping them understand just basic morals. These are things that you cherish as a parent. I imagine, I'm not a parent yet, but I remember, my dad teaching me some of these things and my mum teaching me some of these things and telling me stories, which I still tell other people now. But to say that you learnt these from a robot in some way, or, bits of wires, just somehow doesn't hold the same weight to it. Something that is very replaceable, something that has some batteries in it, you remove it and then you just, I don't know, get a new product the next day. Whereas there are people in your life are not replaceable. The memories that you make with people in life are not replaceable. So to me, there's a bit of tension there. It's also, to me, I think Hans alluded to this in his conversation. He spoke about it. Like, it also talks about the society we live in at the moment. And, you can imagine who this is targeted to. In the video they show, sort of like your middle-class mum and dad buying this thing for their kid to entertain him. He's a single child, and so it's marketed to a very specific demographic. It's and you have to imagine, what the lives of these people in that demographic look like in 2020, working probably quite high intense 9-to-5 jobs. They come home, they're extremely just shattered. They've picked up their kid from school. They've got to make dinner, and they've got, I can imagine like a single parent having a harrowing time trying to get everything together, make sure things are ready, get them bathed and get them to bed, all these sort of like tasks that you do as a parent. I see some of my family members going through this as well with their young ones. And it's tough. It really is tough. People are working quite high intensity jobs, particularly in management roles, and people are saturated. And I can see the appeal. I mean, it's not uncommon to see parents give their children iPads these days to keep them entertained while they get around to doing some of the other tasks around the house. So I can see where a toy like this can come in and give parents a bit of a breathing room, right? To make sure some of the other tasks are done and actually even find space for themselves, because mental health is a really important thing. The managing the pressures of society, managing, your work-life balance, and, making sure that you have enough time, you spend enough time with your children, to do these tasks. It's really important, but I'm kind of swinging the argument both ways here. But the role of this robot, I feel, is where I have the biggest issue with. It shouldn't be the sole object where some of these learnings come from. I mean, I'm happy with it if it tells you stories and, all that sort of stuff. That's okay. And if it does a dance and it entertains you. So similar to a Furby, you know what I mean? Back in the day, those creepy gremlin looking things, at that level, it's okay. Keeps the kid entertained for a while, whatever. And then the parent actually takes over and does the rest of the work. That's okay. But it's a hard balance. The reality is that it is actually quite a hard balance. And this product, as you said, Hans, is very much a reflection of society. Then the fact that this product is being developed and that there is a market for it, it means that there is a need. And it very much is a reflection of how parents are living at the moment,
I mean, look, the potential for this is insane, right? It's insane because for me, another thing that this could replace is a therapist for kids, right? And if I think back to myself as a kid, I probably wouldn't have talked to an adult about, as a kid interacting with a therapist. And, I think one of the things that's happening at the moment is people are realizing that people of all ages could benefit from some form of therapy, of like being able to talk to someone in confidence, and they give you very honest reflections on what you're saying. That's what most of therapy is. And you might say, like, if you imagine a situation, hey Moxie, why does mom and dad have to live separately? Hey Moxie, how come I don't have a dad? Right? And you might think that's like a funny situation, but actually, like, I don't know that many humans that are prepared for the conversation, like to be able to, in the moment, be able to say the right thing to that child. Probably in like 2 or 3 years down the line, you'll be able to ask Google or some kind of AI thing, and that will have data from 10,000 psychologists and philosophers, and to be able to give someone much better, much wiser kind of advice for the time. Plus, the ultimate version of this is when the thing is actually connected to your biometric data about your things like your pulse and your brain signals or and things like that, where it is also able to detect where you are emotionally and psychologically, right, and physically as well. Like, they're all connected, right? And be able to give you feedback that humans wouldn't, your parents even wouldn't be able to give you such feedback. And so for me, like, the ultimate version of this is kind of like, and this is kind of in like a 50, 100 years time, as long as there's no like massive something that sets us back, I think we'll end up, each of us, with our own version of Jarvis or Friday from Iron Man or Spider-Man. This AI that it doesn't have to have a physical form. It just lives with you in your brain, or in your computer or in your phone, right? But it grows with you. And because it grows with you, like, it almost becomes a part of you, like an angel sitting on your shoulder that you can sometimes talk to about stuff, right? And because it understands, like, and it'll be something that's so difficult to remove from who you are, because you would be a different person without that little thing sitting on your shoulder at all times. So it's kind of like augmented intelligence / personality that you'll be able to live differently, because you're able to interact with this thing that kind of doesn't exist, but knows you better than any living thing ever could. So I think that's like the ultimate kind of potential, I think, which this is like a fragment of.
I can see where you're going with this, Hans. But I think the issue here and the need for the product here in the moment is kind of driven by a very different force, and I think that is the crux of it, is that when I see a product like this, and when I see Bally, which is kind of like this product to look after your parents and tell you when they've fallen over and all this kind of, and clean up after them, or I don't know, that kind of thing. It just gives you a snapshot. For me, it's kind of like a wake-up call, It's like, hey, just take a moment to think about the fact that these products are popping up. What is that telling you about the world that you live in?
I know, right?
No judgment pass. It's just literally just like, just take a second to think about the world that we're living in at the moment. And for me, it definitely makes me reflect on the future that I want and the life that I want,
Like,
And yeah,
like even to prototype something like this, to get a product up to this stage, I mean, that thing looks like it's injection molded plastic, which takes a lot of tooling, a lot like moving joints, a lot of R&D, mechatronics work, electronics. It's probably connected to internet. Like there's software, there's monitor, there's charging, there's like shipping and like there's speaker. There's so many like machine learning element. Like the investment, if I had that idea and I want to create something like that, it'll probably take me like a good 2 years, 1 year to 2 year development time to get to a prototype like this. Or I'm not sure if this is a prototype. And that means that either someone who was very wealthy had an idea like this, unlikely, or someone with an idea was able to convince a bunch of people that this was a good idea. And I can see there's a lot of effort that's gone into the design, if I just looking at, form factor and, like details about the eyes and things like, there's a lot of details there. And the other thing this reminds me of is a kind of like a Teletubby, like, except the TV's on its face. I don't know what, I just made that connect. I don't know how that's significant, but it's just like, yeah, it's like a Teletubby.
It's definitely an interesting future that we're walking into.
Yeah.
Particularly for kids. Gosh, I mean, when I was a kid, all I had was a cricket bat. That's all I wanted. Cricket bat and ball. Like that's what every Indian kid wants. Well, used to in the 90s anyway. That's all we wanted.
Actually, if I went back in time and presented you with this, you'd probably be fascinated.
I probably would be.
Yeah.
I probably would
probably
be.
Take it apart.
Probably. Most likely.
What is this?
And then really struggle to put it back together and then freak out because your mum and dad gonna get angry with you because you... I remember doing something like that with, you used to be able to get the 1001 sort of game.
Oh, yeah.
Things. Do you remember like the long...
Yeah.
Sort of Game Boy lookalike type things, and they used to have like 1,000 games in one, but most of them were just repeats. And I remember pulling one of those apart and just freaking out because I couldn't put it back together. And then my dad got annoyed with me. He took it off me, and then he secretly put it back together. And then a couple of days later, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dad. Can I get another one of those?" And he just pulled out the one that he put back together. See, like that's the sort of thing, like that's the sort of stories that I remember. I don't remember. I remember my sister got a Furby, when she was a kid. I don't remember any stories about that other than the fact that it was really creepy and really bad animatronics kind of thing to it. And eventually we just use it like a soccer ball, I think, around the house. Like, it's just, I don't know, like it's the fact that there's something very different, like you yeah, I don't know, we have to just double click on this.
Pain?
What was that, sorry?
Can this thing feel pain?
Oh God, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
The other thing that I just realized is like this thing is exclusively should be marketed exclusively to the parents, because like, can you imagine like if you had some kids, right, and like an uncle or like someone for Christmas, hey, I bought this for your kids. Here you go. Like as a parent, I'd be like, hang on.
Hey, look, I can't imagine this thing would be very cheap either. Like I believe this would be well in the MacBook Pro sort of range of pricing. I can't imagine it would be cheap.
If it's any dumber than that, if it's any, then I don't want it.
All right,
this thing should teach your kid math. Like this thing, if it has equations on its face and like, so you can't get out of the room until like fucking, Moxie tells me that you've done your homework. And it's like teaching you calculus in like really efficient ways and shit. Like that'd be cool. Like I'm happy not to teach Like, oh,
No,
yeah,
man, you want to do that.
yeah, I do. Some
You want to do
parts.
that.
Not to
Yeah.
like just when it gets hard enough for me to like start struggling, I want to hand it off to a robot.
Yeah. As soon as it starts to go past differentials and
Different
then
shows, it's just like, nah,
past that, it's like, all right, someone else take over.
I'm too busy. I'm sorry. I have work and shit. Like, I know the stuff. I know I can do it. I can, but
Prove it, Dad. Prove it. Moxie can do it. Can you do it?
Moxie says you're wrong. Moxie is winning
Wow. Wow.
$5,000.
Wow. Imagine that conversation. Do you believe your dad or do you believe Moxie?
Moxie's gonna lose its head. Like,
Oh my God.
what happened to dog? We don't have a dog. Like,
Oh God. No,
right.
good stuff. Good stuff.